Welcome back to the Canadian Drone Pilot's Guide. It's a beautiful day to be a drone pilot in Canada. We are now on Module 7. Before we begin, I would like to advise subscribers of this channel with sign up to Drone Center, they will receive our free ground school study guide, free SOPs, free logbook, upload and storage, free recency packages, free drone wings after license completion and sign up, with small monthly payments across 24 months. Take the guesswork out of your studying. We have previously completed modules 1 through 6. We are now on 7. For those of you who would like to participate in traditional online or in-person learning, please visit www.sugudrones.com and sign up to our monthly ground school dates or conduct self-guided learning via our LMS. Let's begin. So this slide covers prohibitions on carrying living creatures, 901.22. Our interpretation of this is, basically, please note that carrying living creatures on board is strictly prohibited. This includes animals and any other living beings. At this point, with the regulations at this point, again, you cannot carry humans, dogs, cats. No, you can't put a pet mouse on there, a rabbit. Again, it is strictly prohibited. Later on in some of our tours, I may be able to take you to some spots where I'll actually get to show you a passenger carrying drone. But at this point in Canada, we cannot do this. So stay tuned for some of our site tours later. I'll be happy to show you this in some of our upcoming modules. So this slide covers CARS 901.36 formation flight. Basically, in short, make sure you have a pre-arrangement. This statement is straightforward. You have the option to fly alongside other RPASs given that you have made prior arrangements for such coordinated flight with fellow pilots. Avoid initiating it once you are already airborne. Again, pre-coordination of CARS 901.36 is extremely important. So CARS 901.38 covers first-person view devices. In short, you need a visual observer, basically a person that is going to watch your actions while you fly your drone in the non-perceivable visual field of view. In short, the following regulation is 901.38, which pertains to the usage of first-person view devices. So let's begin by clarifying some of the definitions. A first-person view device, as stated in the regulation, refers to a device that can generate and transmit a live video feed to a control station, display, or monitor, such as a phone or tablet. This gives the remotely piloted aircraft the sensation of flying the aircraft from an on-board perspective. Therefore, it includes not only FPV goggles, but also devices like phones or tablets displaying the live image. If you are using FPV goggles or exclusively relying on an FPV display, you must have a visual observer present. However, it is still necessary to maintain visual contact with the drone at all times. One key aspect mentioned is that the visual observer takes on the responsibility of detecting and avoiding potential hazards instead of the pilot in this context. Detect and avoid means having the ability to visually perceive and identify conflicting air traffic or other dangers, as well as taking appropriate action when necessary. The definitions provided are quite straightforward and clear-cut. So 901.39 is quite simple. If you're flying your drone at night, you must have visual position lights that can be seen with the naked eye with an unaided field of view. So again, flying your drone at nighttime, you'll need those position lights for other operators and yourself to see that drone while you fly. So 901.40 covers flying multiple remotely piloted aircraft. Now in short, save yourself the time here, you can only fly up to a maximum of 5 RPASs if your system is designed to do so. You have the ability again to operate multiple remotely piloted aircraft simultaneously. However, there are certain conditions that need to be met. Firstly, you can fly again up to 5 drones at once, but only if they are controlled by a single unit, specifically designed for this purpose. Secondly, if you wish to operate more than 5 drones, it is permissible, but you must obtain a special flight operational certificate. So in short, 901.42 covers that if you're going to be deciding a particular task, you need to do it before you take off or fly your drone. Handovers are extremely important in the manned aviation world. Pilots exchange it by saying, I have control, you have control. Discussions need to be done clearly and concisely before you fly. Again, flying an aircraft is extremely important. You want to have all these things discussed before you actually fly and put that aircraft in the air. So 901.43 covers dangerous payloads. In this particular case, the topic revolves around payloads once again. The discussion centers on the presence of hazardous payloads. It is prohibited to transport hazardous payloads, which include explosives, weapons, ammunition, flammable or corrosive substances, biohazards, or any other item that could pose a threat to aviation safety or cause harm to individuals. Additionally, any item attached to the aircraft via a line is also subject to these restrictions, unless the instructions for that specific item state otherwise. It is worth noting that this requirement applies unless the operation is carried out in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. The purpose behind this requirement is not entirely clear, but it is explicitly stated here that the attachment to the aircraft by means of any line fails on this provision if, for some explicable reason, you wish to transport any of these items, you must obtain a special flight operational certificate, SFOC, to do so. So 901.45 goes over emergency locator transmitters. Basically, you cannot fly a drone with a transmitter beacon which is formerly known to be used for traditional human rescue on commercial aircraft with passengers or souls. To expand, ELT stands for Emergency Locator Transmitter. According to the regulations, it is not allowed to have an ELT on a drone. An ELT is a specialized device that transmits on a specific radio frequency, either 121.5 or 406 megahertz, which are internationally agreed upon. If a locator device on a drone does not operate on these emerging frequencies, it would not be considered an ELT and therefore would not be permitted. So, it is acceptable to have a locator device on a drone as long as it is not an emergency locator transmitter that operates on international frequencies. ELTs are designed for use by humans in distress only. So 901.46 goes over transponder and automatic pressure altitude reporting equipment. Our interpretation of this is transponders, which are manually coded numeric beacons, play a crucial role in high altitude airspace. Typically, drones operate below the 122-meter level, but certain areas, such as airports, necessitate the use of transponders and automatic pressure altitude reporting equipment. The diagram on the following page provides a visual representation of where transponders are required. In the NAV Canada Designated Airspace Handbook, transponder airspace is clearly identified. Interestingly, air traffic control for this airspace may grant permission to fly without a transponder. However, it is important to note that flying within controlled airspace without a transponder is considered an advanced operation. Now, again, drones to date really and realistically do not use transponders at all. It'll be very rare at this point when they do start enacting transponders. Probably something in the future, but at this point, there is no reason for drones to be utilizing transponders. All right, so let's take a look at this airspace chart. As we can see here, we have our controlled airspace as well as uncontrolled airspace. And from what you can see, this looks like an upside down wedding cake. So, in short, the areas of control are areas of where there is radar coverage, and the areas that are uncontrolled, basically outside of that upside down wedding cake, those are areas where there is non radar coverage. Now, in that inward section of that control zone that extends upwards to 3000 AAE above aerodrome elevation, generally these control zones do have transponders, and this is delineated about what type of airspace it is, but more or less, we have two types of radars. Without getting further into detail with it, we have primary and secondary surveillance radar. Secondary surveillance radar is what's actually picking up that transponder. More or less like when you go on either a toll highway, and if you have a transponder, that's exactly what it is. A transponder specifically is, when we look at a traditional aviation, it's manually inputted codes that is given and generated by air traffic control. At this point in the game, drones do not require transponders. Possibly in the future when I see, things start getting a little bit busier, when drones start carrying passengers, a possibility. But again, at this stage of the game, drones are not required to have it. And as we go further up into this upside down wedding cake, you can see some transition areas. I looking at this specifically, it's based on the handoffs that these controllers will have and the display of coverage, of radar coverage, that these radar beams are able to shoot out and grasp that airspace, more or less, if you may. Again, transponder airspace generally extends upwards in control airspace from Class C all the way up to, say, A in general. But nonetheless, again, transponders are not something you really have to worry about. Going through this again, the areas that are shaded dark gray or uncontrolled, Class G. The areas that are kind of light gray are the control areas A, B, C, or D. And generally, you have your terminal control areas as delineated as well. All right, but nonetheless, we're going to end today with basically a happy dance of some of our students that actually passed their advanced exam. They went through the whole journey, and we want to let you know that it is possible. You put your mind to it, you definitely can do it. Thank you again for watching us today. It's a great day to be a drone pilot in Canada. Thank you for watching. Take care.